It's funny how we take the flip of a switch for granted, isn't it? We live in this world pulsing with invisible energy, but if you go back to where it all started, it wasn't about high-tech labs or sleek power grids. It actually started with a simple piece of amber. In ancient Greece, people noticed that if they rubbed this fossilized resin against some wool, it would suddenly start attracting light things like straw or feathers. They called amber electron, and that's the literal root of the word electricity. We were basically playing with static electricity thousands of years before we ever understood what a circuit was. And even back then, we were using it in ways that sound like science fiction. Ancient Egyptian doctors used to use electric fish to numb pain. They didn't have a name for the current, but they recognized the power, using the sting of a catfish as a primitive form of anesthesia. What's even more surprising is that our modern obsession with electric cars isn't actually new. If you walked down a street in America in the early 1900s, about 30% of the cars you'd see were electric. They were quiet, they didn't belch black smoke, and people loved them. But then we hit a massive vein of cheap oil, and the quiet electric motor was pushed into a drawer for 100 years, while gasoline took over. It's wild to think that we're only now circling back to an idea that was already winning a century ago. But the real drama, the stuff that feels like a Hollywood thriller, happened during the War of the Currents. This was the ultimate ego clash between Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla. Edison was the established titan, and he had bet everything on direct current, or DC. But then came Tesla, backed by George Westinghouse, pitching alternating current, or AC. Tesla's system was just better. It could travel long distances, and Edison knew it. To save his empire, Edison started a smear campaign that got incredibly dark. He wanted to prove AC was deadly, so he went around publicly electrocuting animals, including a poor circus elephant named Topsy, just to scare the public into staying away from Tesla's invention. The irony of that era is everywhere. Take the electric chair, for instance. You'd think it was designed by a physicist or a hardened executioner, but it was actually invented by a dentist. He thought he was finding a more humane way to end life, though the early results were anything but. And while we're deconstructing legends, we have to talk about the light bulb. We're taught in school that Edison invented it, but that's not quite the whole truth. About 20 different people had created light bulbs before he did. The problem was, they were either too expensive or they burned out in minutes. Edison wasn't the first creator. He was the ultimate optimizer. He was the one who figured out how to make it last and how to make it cheap enough for a regular family to buy. He turned a scientific curiosity into a household necessity. It's incredible to realize that while all this was happening in labs and workshops, the most sophisticated power plant in the world was already sitting right behind our eyes. As you're listening to this, your brain is generating its own electricity, somewhere between 12 and 25 watts. It doesn't sound like much, but it's actually enough to power a small LED light bulb. So, the next time you see a cartoon character with a light bulb popping up over their head when they have a great idea, remember that it's not just a metaphor. There is a literal spark happening in your biology. In the end, despite all of Edison's theatrics and the public fear-mongering, science took the lead. Tesla's AC system is what powers the house you're sitting in right now. It's a story of ego, ancient stones, and silent cars that eventually found their way back to the road. We spent centuries trying to tame this force, from rubbing amber to building massive grids, only to find out that we've been carrying a spark of it inside us all along. It's a continuous thread of human curiosity that proves even when we try to bury an idea, like the electric car or Tesla's genius, it eventually finds a way to light up the world again.